Hey fella, let's play fireman. We'll start a fire right here in the living room, and then I'll rescue you. And then I'll rescue baby.
Gee, Davy, do you think that's a good idea?
Sure, what could possibly go wrong? We've got the matches, we've got the firewood, you get the lighter fluid, and we'll start having fun and we can play.
I don't know, Davy.
Welcome, everybody, to Living Figuratively with your host, me, Judy Takács. This is the show that asks the question, why not fill your home with the fabulous faces and figures of people that you don't even know? Why not fill your home with figurative art? Each week, I take you to a different area of my house to show you pieces from my collection or pieces of my own and talk about them a little bit so that you can learn to live with and love figurative art. Last week, this is actually the second part of 2020 Vision, part 2, and tonight it's called Controlling Destiny. Last week, I showed you painting inspired by the Venus de Milo, using my model Elle Cata, who is basically, she looks like a Greek sculpture come to life. And I, used the Venus de Milo. The Venus de Milo is not the only Greek sculpture that she reminded me of. One of our drawing groups, Elle Cata, when she first took her pose, she took a pose like this right here. And, wait a minute. Yeah, this way, like this. And as soon as she did that with her, Greco-Roman features, it totally reminded me of Michelangelo's David. Even though Michelangelo's David is a man and she's a woman, but he's got these beautiful androgynous features. And it really inspired me. And I'm showing you David with the Post-its because I know that Facebook has the nipple bots. I'm sure they also have penis bots, so I don't want it to, flag anything or get shut down. But so I started looking at her as the David sculpture, as the Michelangelo David sculpture, and it got my goddess project wheels turning. I started thinking, how can I make this image of a woman as the historical, biblical character David be part of my goddess project. For those who want a quick reminder, the David and Goliath story in the Bible, it's basically the classic underdog story. David was a young, small, brave hero who went up against Goliath, who was this giant that was terrorizing the, community during wartime, in ancient Israel. And David, armed with only a slingshot over his shoulder, and a stone in his hand, was able to take down the giant with a single shot. So David knocked down this giant Goliath. And in the story, he's able to hack off his head, bring home the head triumphant, and he goes on to become, one of the greatest kings of Israel. In classic Renaissance art, I'm sure, or in realism, I'm sure that it was way more complicated than that, because obviously cutting off the head of a giant, with a little teeny tiny knife, which is what David had, would be very rough, like cutting through the muscles and the bones and stuff. And probably Goliath wasn't even dead, like he probably just got stunned, so I think he might wake up during the process. But, suffice it to say, in classical art and Renaissance art, they made it this beautiful, iconic image, the David image. So when I wanted to interpret this into my own art, I was thinking, how am I going to do this, and what would be the giant that this woman would be taking down? And for my works, I'm going to show you right here. These are the two that I came up with right here. One is called My Body, My Decision. The other one is called Trust Women. And for the giant that I chose to have my female David take down, I chose basically the government and the systems and the patriarchy that would control her decision making and control her life and her body. These didn't start out as actually pro-choice paintings, but they became pro-choice paintings as I started thinking about them more. To basically to symbolize the systems that that she needs to fight and conquer and challenge, I used the American flag. And these are actually flag banners that I used. In the first painting, she is ready for the challenge. She's got the slingshot over her shoulder. She's, you know, it's not really a slingshot, and I wanted to drape the flag over her shoulder. She's ready for the challenge. In the second painting over here, she's examining things, and she's deciding what can be salvaged, what needs to be taken down, and what needs to be changed. As pro-choice paintings, one of the things that I added to them to basically symbolize that are symbols from my own activism that I had done for pro-choice causes. I was last summer, I had occasion to go down to Columbus a couple times, which is our state capital. And one of the things at the time, there was all kinds of legislation on the books that was trying to, you know, the heartbeat bill was out there. There were all kinds of gag orders where healthcare clinic, reproductive clinic workers were being told what they could and couldn't say to patients. And there was, you know, always the looming threat of Planned Parenthood being defunded, and then also, you know, clinic closures all over the country. So for my pro-choice symbolism, one of the things that people were doing down in Columbus was pro-choice activists were taking hangers and hanging them onto the fences of the State House, the Ohio State House. And they were just lots of hangers hanging there. I saw pictures of those, and I saw the hangers, you know, hangers themselves when I went down. For those of you who don't know or weren't born in that generation, the coat hanger is basically a symbol of the bad old pre-Roe v. Wade days when abortions were dangerous, and you had to have, you know, either go to somebody you didn't trust and didn't know and it was illegal and unsanitary conditions, or some women became very desperate and did it themselves using a coat hanger. I mean, can you imagine the desperation it takes to do that? So the coat hanger has been the symbol of the bad old days, you know, before reproductive freedom, before Roe v. Wade. So what I did, like a lot of the, you know, the activists hung hangers, I decided to go one better, and I hung hangers with laminated messages on them. I printed them on pink paper, laminated them so that they would be weatherproof. You know, I'm not sure how long they stayed up there or whether people took them down. I also did another insurance thing. I put an extra picture wire on it so that I could wrap it around the fence, so it was a little bit harder to take down, because I know that people, you know, did ultimately take them down, but I wanted them to stay up as long as possible. I also took pictures of that effort, and they're posted on my Facebook page, so you can look at all the different places and that I put these hangers. I also tried to do messages that would make people think. We've got, you know, trust women, which actually is part of that painting, and this is the actual sign that I used as a model for that. I also tried to appeal to people's medical common sense with, you know, messages like this one: you'll never stop abortions, just the safe ones. I also tried to appeal to people that love the Constitution: pro-freedom, pro-liberty, pro-choice. Go hand in hand. I also tried to pull at the heartstrings and put a little bit of empathy into people. Maybe they might know somebody that they might think of people that they know that might have been helped by Planned Parenthood. And I even tried to reach across the aisle using one of my favorite authors that I have a love-hate complex relationship with, where maybe another episode I will talk about Ayn Rand. But I thought that this might communicate with the libertarians who have gone, Republican, and maybe they might consider pro-choice as one of the liberties. So basically, the concept of empathy, I feel it underlies, my artwork. It also underlies my political leanings, and basically, what the concept of empathy is, that where I don't necessarily know what decisions and life situations and experiences have had their effect on you, so that you come to the decisions that you come to. And empathy works both ways, where you don't know my decisions and my life situations and experiences that help me come up with my decisions, but it's a little bit switching the heads on things, so you can extrapolate from your own experiences what somebody else might be going through. Art and literature and reading about stuff and that kind of stuff really helps with empathy, I believe. And I know from the creative community, there's a lot of people that are very empathetic to situations that are not their own, where you can imagine a difficult situation without ever actually having to experience the difficult situation. And possibly it's because we as creatives, we're always imagining things. We're always imagining other situations. We're always putting ourselves into the shoes of other people, so we can create through different eyes, or so that we can create things that will bridge gaps and speak to people. Empathy is also a learned skill, where you actually can try to develop that empathy by taking a situation and putting yourself into it. Like, for instance, with the abortion issue, there are so many situations. Like, obviously, if you want to have a child, you want to have it at the time when it's convenient and when it works beautifully for you. But many people don't get that situation. They don't get lucky enough to get pregnant when they want or don't want to. They don't get lucky enough to have a good support system. They don't get lucky enough to have access to birth control. They don't get lucky enough to get pregnant by somebody that they love. There's a million different reasons why your reproductive freedom and your right to have or not to have a child at the time when you want to should be your decision, between you and your doctor. If you will bear with me for just a little bit longer, I do have one more sort of more logical perspective on the abortion issue, which basically, in this land, and you and your body know that you have the right to determine whether you are going to donate blood, whether you want to donate a kidney, whether you want to donate tissue, whether you want to donate platelets or bone marrow. You have the right to say, no, I don't want to donate any of those things. And no court in the land will force you to. You, as a dead body, have the right to say and determine whether your organs or your parts, your heart, your liver, your kidneys, your intestines, any of those things will be donated, even though you don't need them. You have the right to say, no, I won't do it. And your family has the right to say, no, we won't donate those parts. Even though people will die without them. In fact, one of the interesting things as I was researching what I'm saying here tonight, do you know that every single body that is an organ donor can potentially help and save 58 different people? Because you've got your 8 organs, each of which, some of you have duplicates, each of which can help, save the life of 8 different people. And then there's also 50 pieces of bodily tissue in your body, like heart valves and corneas and bones and just different things like that that can help 50 different people. And yet, there's no court in the land that can force your cadaver to donate to save those 58 lives. And yet, a living woman can be forced into service for 9 months to the rest of her life, depending on how everything goes, mentally and physically. And she doesn't even have the same rights to her bodily autonomy as a cadaver. So that's sort of another perspective to look at, for the reproductive freedom issue. And so now that you've listened to me, and thank you to those of you who do not agree with me, who have stuck here till the end. I really, really appreciate that, because it shows empathy. So thank you for that. Now I'm going to talk back about the paintings. Both of these paintings, I wanted the drama of the statue come to life. So for both of them, her skin is this very beautiful, translucent, pale skin where, different, like the blues and the reds and the cools kind of show through with her translucent skin. I put it against the dark background to be very dramatic, especially because the flag kind of needed to be sort of a dramatic thing, and I wanted it to be to show up nicely against the dark background. We have the pink signs were intrinsic to the whole concept, and so I did it coming out of a pink background, and I even did this little thing that I love to do where I put the pink on the inside of the floater frame. It really makes a nice presentation. I also put in a lot of the hangers in different places in the background as a subtle second reading, or maybe not so subtle. Some of them are piercing the flag, just showing that, that it's definitely an issue that needs to be dealt with on a scale, a nationwide scale. Also, the flag has been through a lot. The flag is a little bit tattered looking, a little bit broken looking, but still obviously salvageable, and hopefully a little hope for the future, a little bit of introspection in this one. Like what can we do to make things right? And let's see, I'm trying to think what else about the paintings. I think I might have covered. I've got some, the stitching on the flag, that really kind of made it fun, and I felt like these were very serious, politically leaning paintings that hopefully will maybe create a little bit of empathy in the viewer, and I think that might be it for tonight. I want to give you a little message here. Next week, I'm going to do a sort of a teeny tiny little bite of Living Figuratively, because next week I will be virtually at the Portrait Society of America conference. Not in reality. I'll be in my studio watching it on my laptop. But at the time when Living Figuratively comes on, it will be in the middle of a phenomenal demo by one of my favorite artists, Robert Liberace. The demo starts at 4:30, and anybody can sign up to watch it. It's $10 to the Portrait Society. I'll have all the information on my website, and you can watch a master working, and it's really going to be fabulous. I'm going to take a little tiny special report commercial break and do a quick showing of a couple of pieces by Robert Liberace that are in my collection. And I will also tell you how I use his work to inspire mine. In fact, I've started many a painting day by looking at my Robert Liberace's to help inspire my brushstrokes. So join me next week, same time, same bat time, same bat channel. I hope you will forgive my little political push here. And even if I haven't changed your mind on the reproductive freedom issue, I hope I've given you something to think about. And I hope that possibly you might want to become an organ donor, knowing that potentially 58 people can be helped by you. So same bat time, same bat channel next week, August 27th, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Y'all come back now, you hear?